And good morning and welcome to VSA Capital 5 Minute Morning Miner. It's April the 25th. It's Tuesday. Good morning, Paul. How are you this morning?
I am well, thank you. Very busy with all the press releases out on these quarterlies and things.
There's so many quarterlies, and to be honest with you, not a lot of them say an awful lot, and some of them, like South 32, are just so complicated you'd need the whole morning to read through. And we don't have the whole morning because we like to be out at 8:45. Let's start with one, though, that always gets a lot of retail attention, and which we follow pretty closely, and that is Bushveld Minerals had a quarterly. What did you read into that, Paul?
Well, I think for me that was interesting at this point that they had Q1 production of 972 metric tons, which was essentially flat from the prior year, or from the prior quarter of last part of 2021. Their Vametco production cash costs had actually improved by 17%, but the other subsidiary, Vanchem, their costs had increased by 26%. So it's kind of a mixed bag there as far as their cost impacts have been concerned here. Part of that due to maintenance costs, but also, of course, the ever rising power costs in South Africa as well. But they do think in Vanchem's particular case that they should be able to make up the production and production cash cost improvement through the rest of the year as they get a third kiln back on stream. They ended the quarter with cash and equivalents at 12.7 million, and they have reported their guidance for the year at between 4,200 and 4,400 metric tons of vanadium, and that again is dependent on the second half here on getting that kiln 3 at Vanchem running again.
The problem is, these kilns, they consume a vast amount of power. And of course, power prices globally have gone up, twofold, triplefold, or something like that. And yet the vanadium price basically hasn't gone up. So their costs have gone up. But unlike many other mining companies, their commodity price basically hasn't, which means they will be squeezed to hell. But it's we've talked a lot about vanadium and Bushveld in the past. I think most people know our views. It's interesting, of course, they no longer basically are in they no longer have Bushveld Energy as this big subsidiary that is promote tremendously. So bit of a U-turn there's taking place as well. So anyway, probably enough said. Let's move on to the next one, Paul.
Yes, I did want to mention in particular of importance to the AIM market and the tin and lithium space is this a PEA that Afritin, the AIM quoted in Namibia, a tin producer, has put out for the phased commercial size expansion. It's PEA level study and looking very robust here at this point. So I'm predicting that they will be proceeding in due course with development here, and it would add Namibia as a significant lithium and tin producer going forward for the next 1 to 2 decades. We're looking at after-tax NPV8 of $2 billion and an IRR at 75%. And the expansion would be just 1.5 years for payback on a $440 million capex. So with these kind of numbers around essentially fully developing the U.S. tin district into a significant lithium and tantalum producer as well, I think they're really going to go after it here.
Is this the lithium down the south of Namibia?
No, U.S. is up in the northwest of Namibia, actually.
Right, because there's quite a lot down in the south, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's tends to be also lithium tantalum pegmatites, but Afritin's U.S. project in particular was historically known as a tin producer specifically.
We probably ought to go and visit Namibia and see what's going on, Paul. Afritin, I mean, the stock hasn't actually moved much this morning on the back of that news, but it's obviously been a tremendous performer in the last 2 years, up from 2p to over 8p. So maybe that's priced in. Talking of tin, by the way, we did release our Cornish Mining podcast yesterday. If no one has got hold of it, you can get it on your iPhone in the podcast icon or on Spotify, or do ask your contact at VSA Capital. It's going down remarkably well. We've had hundreds of listeners already. So it's obviously well worth listening to. What else you got? We've got a couple of big ones maybe worth mentioning. Had called, as I said, South 32 and Hochschild, very complicated though. So we may as well skip over that. What other little ones have you got that would be of interest, Paul?
Well, what also caught my attention was among is ASX listed Kincora Copper. They are exploring in Australia and have come up with a new southern extension in skarn mineralization from drill hole 30, and about 164 meters of in 3 skarn zones that it had been intercepted there, and they are ore grade, which is the interesting thing here too, which is from the assays. The middle skarn, 29 meters at 0.54 grams gold and 0.22 copper, and the lower skarn at about half a gram of gold. Now, depending on depth, of course, and the volumes to be defined is what ultimately indicates the economics of these. But the fact that they've gotten that kind of enrichment is a very good sign that they have a significant discovery there.
Yeah, and actually, whilst having a bit of an Africa day, what about Shanti Gold? They had Q1 productions today.
Yes, they did. And from Shanta, the numbers would indicate to me that they're making essentially very steady progress. Gold production, however, was down by about 800 ounces on a quarter-on-quarter basis, but that was in line with the guidance that they had provided back in January. In the quarter, they also upgraded the mineral resource on their West Kenya project by 31% to 1.5 million ounces, and the indicated portion of that by 300 or 221% to 378,000 ounces. But the importance of this one is the grade, and that is over 11 grams per ton and indicated. So one of the very good grade deposits in Africa that will ultimately get developed, I think.
Interesting. Finally, don't forget Mining Indaba is coming up on May the 8th. Obviously, actually it starts, I believe, on May the 9th, but May the 8th is the VSA Capital party down at the waterfront. Everybody's invited. It's a good party. We have hundreds and hundreds of people. Mining Indaba, this is the most important mining conference in the world in the year. Obviously, we're very close to Mining Indaba. We have our joint venture, the Shanghai Mining Club, where we will be putting on a conference for Chinese investors in October. So if you haven't registered yet for Mining Indaba or getting down there, book your flights, get down there. It's the place to be seen. Paul, thanks a lot. We'll speak again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.